Why, hello, everyone. I can't believe this. Thanks for coming. It's hard to compete with Larry. How did that happen? I don't know, but I want to thank you all for coming. Today, we're going to talk about agentic transformation geared at driving business value. So we've got a fabulous panel. I want to start by a little bit of a true confession. I was a skeptic. When AI came out, I said, okay, this is going to be RPA on steroids, promise a lot, not deliver much. I'll tell you a little bit about our story. So we gave everyone in the firm access to Gen AI. Go play, citizen-led. We then said, okay, there's some really good use cases coming out of this. Let's do some pilots. And now we're at the point where we have a platform anchored around delivery that has proven to significantly take out cost, drive acceleration with quality. So I'm a believer now. So then what? Well, those of you that have worked with us know about our micro-vertical strategy, our sector model systems. Why don't we apply an agentic workflow to our model systems and see what we can do there? Now we're in the process of, we're piloting about 5 of these right now, and we're seeing the value. And this time it's value for the customer, not just in a lower cost implementation. So, skeptic, true believer, as my friend Dan says, I'm a zealot now. I really believe it because I've seen it, I've touched it. Some data points. 65% of companies use Gen AI regularly now. 50% of CEOs expect this to lift profits. Greater revenue, better margin, lower SG&A. However, 74% of the companies that are using it and working with AI are struggling to see the value. So if we had more non-PwC people here, Emerson people here, this would make more sense. But by show of hands, how many people are using it across your enterprise? Okay. That looks like it fits the pattern, 74%. How many people, probably based on pressure from your C-suite, are seeing real, tangible, scaled value as a result of Gen AI and Agentic? I got to talk to you after. All right. So what? Okay, so why is that? Why is it such a challenge to meet the CEO's objective? Well, this isn't that easy, but when done and done right, you do get the value. Data quality, data governance, data latency. That's number one, based on our CEO survey. This is what we are hearing from our clients. Number two, process, disparate processes, and application architecture that maybe is not fit for purpose, lots of different systems, different data models. So process, number two. Number three, the people agenda. Do we really trust it? Do we really want it? What is it going to do to my job? So we've got an amazing panel here with us coming on stage. I'm going to first ask my friend, my partner, Dan Priest, to opine on what I just said.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, it's hard. And I reflect a lot on the conversations I have with clients about their journey. And what keeps coming to mind is Amara's law. Roy Amara said, we tend to overestimate the impact of technology in the short run and underestimate the impact of technology in the long run. And because of that, and we saw this with Gen AI, in the beginning, we all were blown away by it. And it made our heads spin about what was possible. And then immediately the reality set in, And we realized that it's more than just our kids writing term papers or us writing emails. And we needed to do some things that were industrial strength, things that would scale and sustain value. And that's hard. And then you have, a lot of companies out there, leaders who they're trying to wrap their head around AI and how to get value from it. And they haven't figured it out, so they tended to delegate to the citizenry and sort of crowdsource the answer. Where can I get value from AI? Or delegate it to the tech teams. And AI is so much more than just a technology. AI it's transforming the full capability stack, from data to apps to infrastructure to the AI layer to workflows to people models to partnerships. The entire op model has to transform to unlock the value. You don't have to do everything at once, but you have to take segments of your capability system and transform it. And but we're seeing the breakthroughs, right? And we're seeing AI start to pay off. We did a survey of 1,000 respondents, and they basically said of those who are using AI, 60% were saying they're seeing productivity gains, they're seeing better decision making, and almost 9 in 10 were saying around agents that they were investing a lot and they were going to invest more in the next 12 months. They don't do that unless it's paying back. There was a recent academic study about 95% of all AI pilots were failing to produce an ROI, but they went back to 2.5 years ago when Gen AI stormed onto the scene, and naturally and rightfully there was a lot of experimentation, and experiments don't all succeed. Part of being innovative is allowing failure to happen and learning from those failures. We tend to focus a lot right now on the failures. But it's kind of like when Thomas Edison was asked about the failures that led to the light bulb, he said, I never failed. I found 10,000 ways the light bulb didn't work, and that got to the breakthrough. And that's what we have to focus on. Is that there's some really great breakthroughs right now, and we should talk about it with the rest of the panel. But it works, and to your setup, there's a way to get value. It doesn't happen naturally. You have to be programmatic about it. You have to be disciplined about it. There's lots of great lessons learned to harvest the value from it.
Thanks, Dan. Let's get our panel up here. So, Gus Shane, EVP of Technology and Operations at NetApp. Come on up. Matthew Gillette, Vice President of Product Management at Acuity. And then Mr. John Beagle, VP of Applications and Digital Transformation at Emerson. All right, guys, I'm gonna start you off. I'll start with Gus and Matt on this one. I'm going a little bit off script here. But what is your feeling about what Dan just talked about, the experimenting versus driving to a scaled value opportunity?
Yep. You want me to go first? I mean, look, I think Dan's exactly right. One of the biggest issues has been this indefinite experimenting, right? You start doing POCs and they never end, and then new technology comes out and new LLMs come out, and they want to switch over and keep trying that. So, that's been a problem. I think that's part of the reason it's been hard to operationalize AI in enterprise for the most part. But, at NetApp, we've taken a little bit of a different twist to it this time around. I think we still want the team to continue to, play around and prototype and stuff, because that's where all the ideas come from, right? You don't want to stop that. You want them to continue to innovate and all that. But you want to do it in a controlled fashion where, you've got some governance in place. You give them the right tools. You have to always make sure they have the latest and greatest tools, because if you don't, they're going to go and play around with something else. So I think that's where you kind of have this hybrid approach, a little bit of top-down, bottoms-up approach. And then from these prototypes, you're gonna find a few that really make sense that you can go all in and scale. But it's a mindset change, right? That you have to work with the general population in the company, and that takes a little bit of time. So that's kind of what we're doing. We've got a pretty good program right now. We started off very similar to what you said. We came up with like 300 ideas, looked into all of them, dwindled them down to like 20, got the CEO's support, constantly reviewing, the projects with them, generates a lot of interest. And now, we're all in on these, and some are live, others are gonna go live in the next few weeks. So I think it's coming along nicely. And we continuously talk about it on our all hands, a lot of education, all that stuff helps in every way.
So how did you come to that strategy? Was that...
I think we just sat down as C-staff and brainstormed, okay, what worked, what didn't work, and we said, you know what, we tried this, didn't work, tried this, didn't work, let's try it, let's give it a little bit of a twist. And
So kind of the fail-forward approach,
Yep, and it's working out pretty good.
Yeah. And I will tell you, that's one of the pivots that we've seen is it starts crowdsourcing bottom up, and then the C-suite says, no, we have to have our strategy, right? We're gonna pick our spots, we're gonna go top down, we're gonna have objectives for these investments, and we're gonna manage them with discipline.
Matt, what about Acuity in your strategy, and then maybe
Absolutely, I mean, and I agree with Gus. You need both, but when you look at where does value come from as a business, it gets calculated as a public company at the end of period financials, right? And so functionally, most experiments happen within your inbox or within a function within an organization such as finance. But overall, it's when the value chain comes together, that's when the magic happens. And in order to do that, you need to orchestrate the connection between the experiments that are functional and then connected in terms of its key processes. And so that requires a governance, that requires intentionality. And overall, that's how we are starting to look at scaling, because scaling comes from connecting processes together.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because we had the same experience. The one-off use case, great, you see it, but when you start to tie it together, that's when you get the major unlock. John, I'm gonna pivot, I'm gonna get different. First, if you could explain Emerson's strategy, and then I'm gonna ask you an interesting question.
Yeah, so for us, we have an AI COE. We govern everything, we look at it, but what it's highlighting and amplifying is the fragmentation across the ecosystem. So as my boss likes to say, we have a whole bunch of bunt singles that aren't materializing into runs, primarily because every time you make 2 steps forward, you hit a piece of fragmentation, whether it's application fragmentation or data fragmentation, and it kind of sets you back because you're not able to get full value of the use case.
So you said something interesting. I know a little bit about your environment, and I can see where the challenge might be, but you do have a long-term strategy to get it all in one place, right? Governance, control around it, ensuring that the outcomes that you do get can be relied on. How do you think about that?
So it's not only are the outcomes being relied on, but when it breaks, does someone understand what it's doing, right? And we're very quick to bring in an outside partner and go automate this thing, and then they go sail off into the night, and then it breaks on a Sunday, and everyone just kind of stares at each other like, what next? So while we govern what goes into the funnel, and we have a COE that looks at it, and we go through legal and make sure it's all copacetic, we also have a technical team that understands the guts of it, even though it might be being developed in a marketing group or down into a business group. In order to get into our AI framework, someone has to understand it. Someone has to be able to articulate it, not necessarily understand the technology behind it, but understand the workflow and the process flow of what it's intended to do. Because the last thing we want to do is automate some sort of sales operations exercise. It breaks, and everyone says, I don't know how to do this.
Just 2 things that were important in my mind on those key points. One is the traditional systems of record are vertical, right? They pick a spot, a functional area of the business, and they automate it, and they produce a clean core, they get standard processes, and there's incredible value from doing that. And that's been happening for decades. And that's not how humans work. Humans work across those workflows, across those solutions end to end. And so when we were experimenting, intuitively we said, okay, let's focus. Let's pick a very focused use case. But it was so narrowly defined, it felt much like a point solution, very hard to get incremental value above those vertical solutions, ERPs. Now what agents do is they operate as an extension to the operating model. They're an extension of the human, and they work extremely well horizontally, and they can traverse workflows end to end. And so agents now, and we're seeing it in the numbers, for 20 years, trillions of dollars spent on ERPs, labor productivity in the US actually dropped. And it was because every time you put a new system into place, you actually added humans to manage it, to produce value from it, to produce reports, to act on it. Now you've got these agents who can absorb a bunch of that work, and you're seeing, you can see it in the US labor productivity statistics. Productivity in the last 2 years has doubled. Annual growth, doubled. And then the other interesting thing is as you start working those horizontals, to your question about reliability, these models are imperfect, right? They are the most powerful models. They're incredible. They're phenomenally good, and they're imperfect. You hear about metrics, latency rates, model accuracy, drift, and my favorite of all, deception rates, meaning the models get it wrong, and then they lie to you about getting it wrong. And yes. I was asked recently, what do you think about this? Should we really be using agents since they do that? I mean, humans have been getting it wrong for a long time, and they're very reluctant to own up to it as well. And we know how to manage that, and we're learning how to manage this new layer of our workforce, agents, to avoid the consequences of them getting it wrong and then being deceptive about that.
All right, so I'm going to ask a question about the biggest obstacle I have. I talked about our delivery platform and scaling it and pushing it out globally. The challenge has been the people agenda. And the challenge is anchored on adoption, right? How do you rethink about your org construct, given you have this capability now, or what kind of skills do you need? How the retooling of people? It's really proven to be difficult to get everyone to buy in, especially since they think they're going to lose their job. So let me ask you, Gus, how do you think about that challenge, the people's agenda?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. In fact, one of the hardest things to get out of people is a real ROI or a KPI to measure, right? Every time we tell them, okay, you know what, we're going to go all in, we're going to fund this, tell us your productivity metrics so we can start monitoring, and that's when they kind of resist. Oh, no, we're not going to do that. Typically, engineering departments, very popular, right? Hey, if we give you that metric, the next thing you're going to do is going to ask us for headcount reductions. That's the standard narrative, or that's what they expect. But that's been a big resistance for sure. So for us, we've done a couple of things. One is we've had that question pop up many times. Hey, are we going to lose our jobs? Are we going to lose our jobs? I think educating them on AI will go a long way, because even though you think they know AI, you'll be amazed if you actually force them to take some courses and get educated. You'll be amazed at how much more they can do and how much more they can understand it to augment some of the stuff they're doing, because many don't actually know how to use it well. You'll be amazed at that. In fact, at NetApp, we've just recently forced our senior level, like VPs and up, have a mandatory 13-week course, an hour a week, obviously, but they've been forced to take it from the CEO down, and it's pretty impressive, some of the stuff you see in there, right? We're a tech company, everybody thinks they know AI. Once you start getting into the advanced features and stuff, it's pretty impressive. The other thing we've done is we've we're trying to encourage people to lean in and not shy away, because a lot of them are scared of it. But if you lean in, for us, it's more augmenting, right? We want to embed intelligence in everything they do. That's kind of how we're selling it. We will reskill you. We will have you focus on more strategic things. We'll reevaluate the roles, but we want to make you much more productive and let AI or the agents handle the grunt work, and you kind of problem solve, if you will. And I think it's taken some time. It's not working across the board, I'll tell you that, but we have to keep pushing it from the CEO down, and over time, I think they're going to get it, and they're going to start leaning in, but they have to lean in.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't want to make you nervous, but you're going live on a pretty significant fusion
Yeah, I'm not
project.
worried about that now. I'm just,
Yeah. I know that's like you've established your digital clean core. You'll be successfully live in a month.
Yep,
Yeah?
absolutely.
How do you see Oracle playing a role relative to your agentic journey?
Look, it's our largest transformation in the history of the company, right? We're transforming, we're moving off a really old ERP to the latest and greatest, right? With the help of PwC, of course. We're in the final stages. I think it's going to be a great opportunity because we've sunset so many different tools and solutions that we're now using with Oracle Cloud. So it's a great place to start.
Yeah.
I know that Oracle's embedding a lot of stuff in there, right? With Redwood and other things that we're looking at. So I think it's going to be a great place for us to, you know, lean in as well. But we're not just doing it with in-app, right? We've got our own platform and all that stuff as well. So, you know, you've got to have a hybrid, right?
Yeah. So, sorry, I dropped, that was a curveball, but I wanted to drop that in and see what you had to say. You know, John, I want to go back to the question, addressing the workforce, right? How is Emerson thinking about that?
Well, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that there's not a headcount reduction that's involved.
Yeah.
I mean, there is an element of it, but it's not 100%. And so by being able to demonstrate to the organization that we take waste out and then we reinvest a subset of that waste back in, and giving them opportunities to upskill, opportunities to do things that maybe they historically couldn't do, and then opportunistically harvesting some of that cost as either people attrit or people decide they don't want to go along the journey. Maybe you just don't backfill them, and that becomes easier to accomplish. But there's definitely an element of your work is changing, but the individual needs to be willing to change with the work. And if they're not willing to change, that's okay. There's a lot of people that need operators. Maybe it's just not with us. Yeah. And so being able to really articulate, here's the journey we're willing to take you down, but you have to be willing to go down that journey as well.
And I'm interested in your perspective on the people agenda.
Yeah, I think you've heard me say this before, but I spend half my time working on artificial intelligence and the other half of my time doing therapy on people reacting to artificial intelligence. The human reaction is so intense and so important to manage. And again, I resonate a lot with what Gus and John are pointing out. They have to see a value proposition for themselves at the end of this journey. It can be different, right? And jobs will be disrupted, but it's really hard to motivate people by saying, eliminate your job. And I don't know what your future is, right? Leaders, this is a leadership challenge. Leaders have to be articulate about what that future is. That's why it's so important to bump it back up to the C-suite, right? You've got to have a vision for how this grows the pie. That's why innovation is so important, right? For so many decades now, you know, we have been focused on standards and efficiencies and dropping dollars to the bottom line and doing that all over again and again. We have not invested in innovation cultures. And now we're saying, reimagine it all, right? And that is really hard to do. We don't have those muscles developed. And so we have to invest in innovation cultures, and we have to get people confident that they do have a journey or a value proposition at the end of this journey. And I think a lot about, I got coaching from a client. He was a CEO. I was doing a transformation for him a long, long time ago. And he said, Dan, it's important for people to know what will change. And it's also important for them to know what won't change, meaning like what your role is. And that's hard, right? Like to strike that balance. But that's incredibly true for this AI transformation that we're all in the midst of, because there are certain things that the humans will do, relationships, critical decision making, dealing with ambiguous situations, first principles thinking on innovation. There's so many things that kind of move the human up the value curve, and we got to encourage that and invest in it. It doesn't just happen on its own. And then the last thing I'll say is there's a lot of conversations right now about what is the new shape of the organization because of AI. Will it decimate the entry-level positions? Will we go from a pyramid to a diamond? And people are making predictions about that, and it's showing up in hiring. But those are predictions, and predictions are sometimes right, and they're sometimes wrong. One of the more popular shapes that I'm having a lot of conversations with my clients about is this hourglass, because you think about, we're transforming businesses right now. And to do that, you need a workforce that is change ready, all in on AI and next generation capabilities, and affordable. And I just described entry-level positions, right? Middle management tends to be really hard to move. They are less change ready. They are less likely to adopt AI in their ways of working because they've been trained. And so some leaders are talking about more of an hourglass shape where the middle starts to shrink a little bit and they grow the base of the organization. So and all of it is, we are experimenting right now. Yep. We're trying to figure this out, and we'll make some mistakes along the way, but the leadership equation is just critically important.
Mm. Hourglass, I like that.
I do too.
I hadn't thought about it. That's good. Did you come up with that?
I don't know if I did or not.
That's pretty good.
I'll take credit for it today.
It's pretty good. So, Matt at Acuity, how do you feel about the Gus, you kind of answered it, stole his thunder a little bit. It was a good answer. But how do you feel about the in-app agents? And think about it from an ecosystem perspective, all the different SaaS products that you have versus the custom AI, Gen AI that you build, their agents.
Absolutely. I think companies will need to create an identity of where they're going to play as it pertains to AI. But in terms of the generic terms, it's either in-app or agentic in terms of outside the application across the board. And overall, the key benefits that really drive that choice comes down to what point or what solution you're going after, what's the outcome that you care about. And for in-app, you typically find very quick, accelerated time to value. It's very easy because in most cases, best of breed solutions have in-app capabilities and they're very functional in terms of deployment. But on the downside, what happens is you start creating the organizational silos that breaks down end-to-end processes. And so, on the other hand, the connection with with outside of application agentic capabilities, you focus on connecting those end-to-end processes. And those end-to-end processes are going to require data integrations. It's going to require contextual data that is ready for that type of integration. And then when you think of the complexity of what holds humans back in most cases, it requires foresight in terms of judgment to make the decisions of is that outcome what I really wanted to happen, right? And so, but on the upside of that, that's where you get the transformative outcomes, because now the processes are combined. It's based on a contextual layer that makes sense for your organization. And overall, now you can then automate at scale. So in my view, I think there's always going to be a balanced approach that you need to bring to the decision. It's a little bit more dynamic than the typical make versus buy, but with the right focus on what outcome you're trying to drive for your organization, you can make the right choice.
So end-to-end, cross-application set, and you need to orchestrate said agents across these SaaS products, yeah?
Absolutely.
Oh. And augment maybe with some real cool differentiated use cases that your teams come up with that might be unique to you.
Absolutely, and I think that's where the nature of work is changing, right? So when we talked about where will people fit in, so having developers as well as process and product owners that understand the underlying data, understand the underlying technology, and then can build the agentic models that are going to connect those capabilities in a scalable way is skills that have not necessarily been tapped into. And so ultimately getting that those capabilities outlined in your organization and where in the op model they fit in as you're transforming processes is going to be the next frontier that's going to really drive value.
That's great. Now, I'm going to offer this up to anyone on my panel here because it's one of the more the challenging ones. There's a lot of solutions out there, services that say, hey, you got your legacy environments, you've got this hodgepodge of applications, different data models. I don't mean to lead the witnesses, but how do we feel about those alternative solutions that might suggest you don't need to upgrade to the modern ERP or the modern CX system? Maybe this is a little self-serving, but I think there's some merit to this. Do those other solutions, do you think that'll work?
I mean, my perception or my perspective is that I think it works in the near term, but like we discussed earlier today, the Oracles of the world are paid to peer around the corner. They're paid to anticipate 2, 3, 5 years down the road. And could I get a point solution today? Yes. Will it solve today's problem? Yes. Will it scale to the unknown problem? Highly unlikely. Mm-hmm. And so I think you've got to pick a platform and a partner that has that strategic vision, that is investing in peering around the corner, so that if and when it shows up in your organization, you're ready for it.
Yeah.
I think for the foreseeable future, again, going back to the ERP value proposition, you get standard processes, you get clean data, you get authoritative reporting. That is important. Those are deterministic outcomes that you want. I was talking before about the horizontal. You take a forecast. You want those anchor points, those deterministic anchor points across the workflows. A forecast starts with a demand signal in the market, goes into a sales forecast, a financial forecast, a production run, right? You're pulling that thread throughout the enterprise. Part of it's probabilistic. I'm probably going to get this level of demand. And part of it is deterministic. And you want those deterministic anchor points. And there's so much value to be unlocked around the horizontal. Like, start there. Like that's the whole end-to-end point, right? Start there. Rely on what's proven. Rely on that clean data core. And then build the horizontal, because that's the way humans work. That's the way humans make decisions. That's how value is unlocked.
So in essence, we think we need something there, and we've got an interim solution, but long-term, getting everything into modern digital core is going to create even greater unlock of value.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah, that's not an experiment I'd want to run, to live without that clean core.
Oh, some have tried, right?
Yeah, it's not pretty.
So let me ask you something. When you're looking to where, and this is to all of you, when you're looking at partners like PwC, besides taking costs out of our delivery and being more efficient and faster, what are you looking for in a partner like us? How can we help you with your agentic journey?
Well, I could probably take that one. So we are early, like most, we're probably early in our transformation to the cloud, as well as our agentic journey, right? But being cognizant of where we are, we saw a lot of similarities as we dove into our underlying architecture in terms of the cloud migration as well as the agentic journey. So the dependencies around data readiness, the dependencies around business model reinvention, and how is the processes really going to perform in the future state, in the art of the possible. And then last, the people equation, the change management requirements. Seeing around corners for all those things can be quite complex. And as we all know, ERP deployments are quite complex, and so will be the agentic revolution when you start to do it at scale. It requires a different set of skills. And so PwC brings perspective. They help us see around corners, but they tell you what you may not want to hear. And sometimes that's a good thing, because it's much easier to understand the 50 ways something didn't work versus having to experience them yourself and then not realize the return on investment. So PwC has been invaluable in terms of helping us build our perspective in terms of where we want to take the company.
Yep. I mean, I can echo exactly what Matt said. Obviously, we have a great relationship with PwC. We're working with them on our big ERP transformation, and they've been phenomenal. But I think time to market's key, right? They can quickly tell us some of the best practices out there, which have been super valuable in this ERP migration, especially with updates to our board and stuff, where, they wanted to ask PwC specific questions. Hey, how does this compare to X, Y, and Z, and blah, blah, blah. But that's invaluable, I think. They can quickly get us there. I think the talent leverage is huge, right? Like Matt said, I think we can get the skill set. We needed specific skill sets during that migration that we didn't have, that you guys were able to bring very quickly. That's also super invaluable for us. And then, of course, confirmation, right? Like making sure we're, there's regulatory challenges and all that. We want to make sure we're compliant in every way. So I think those three areas, PwC has been great. And we're leveraging them outside of the ERP migration as well. We're actually working with them on an AI initiative as well in our customer support organization as well. So,
Did not know that. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, whether it's PwC or just a partner in general, right? Bringing that industry perspective, a strong point of view. If it were my money, here's what I would do. Investing the time into the organization to really understand it. But probably most importantly is bringing forth you could do it that way, but if you do, it's going to cause you problems later down the road.
Yes.
So bringing that kind of that counterbalance. Too many partners in the ecosystem will just do exactly what you ask for. And then at the end, they said, well, you never asked me my opinion. I wouldn't have done it that way. Well, there's no value there after the fact. Tell me ahead of time. And I might choose to ignore you, but at least we were intentional about that. Yeah. It wasn't a de facto poor decision. And so, when you look at a PwC invest a lot of resource, learning the business, understanding the business, works with a lot of competitors that we deal with. So, while they don't say they're doing it this way, they can say other companies that look like you and sound like you and of your size might do it this way. Mm-hmm. Read into that what you may.
Good. That's actually helpful for us. We want to hear that. So have a point of view, bring the experts, tell us what others are doing, what's working, what's not working. I have to ask, we're at AI World. We're hearing a lot about the one Oracle strategy. Right? We heard about it last year, and now it's really coming to life in the reorg. We heard a lot about AIDP as a new data platform. How do you feel where Oracle is taking things? And obviously, AI World would suggest that they have a motivation to kind of own the AI agentic agenda, yeah? Any thoughts on that?
I'll put it this way. There's a lot of optimism built into AI in the market. When you look at where the S&P currently is, about 2.7 trillion is built around optimism around the capabilities AI will bring, and companies have two choices. It's going to either come from revenue or it's going to come from productivity. I think Oracle gives us the ability to choose both, and they're building an ecosystem that enables companies to do that. So I think it's quite wonderful. Somebody has to do it. And it gives you the opportunity to scale.
You got a lot of options, right?
You got options.
I mean, the one Oracle strategy, now you've got the platform, you got the apps, you got the operational systems in the IBU. It's pretty compelling. And it's open. But, you know, I think Dan really enjoys spending time. He represents all products. I think he spends a lot of time here, and you're pretty optimistic about what they're doing. What are your thoughts?
So one, the ecosystems are getting increasingly complicated. So where you can find ways to manage that complexity, take advantage of that. That's the one Oracle value proposition in my mind. AIDP, you know, we're coming up to speed on what it's going to be capable of. Just going back to the theme of this panel, who's getting value from AI? There's a few big difference makers. One is, in this age of AI, human talent matters most. Human talent matters most because, and there's a reason why there's a war for talent in Silicon Valley. There's like hard engineering problems that need to be solved. There's hard business problems that need to be solved. Get your talent on these initiatives. That will make the difference. The other big difference maker is data. And this idea that you can harvest the value of all these different data stores and make sense of them against a valuable business objective, it's not just talk anymore. And we were talking before, Gus and I, about those who had started to push their data assets into the cloud. Well, those data assets are now more discoverable, cleaner, you know, more valuable to this AI agenda. And so being able to come up with economical data solutions that work against high-value business problems, like, go after that. And you know, again, early days on AIDP, but it shows a lot of promise. I mean, that's kind of an exciting prospect.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it was kind of a missing piece that now they've kind of filled out the portfolio. But I also like the fact that there's an openness to Oracle that I've been doing this for 30 years. Oracle is now open to work with others. Yeah, so it's pretty compelling what they're doing. I think it's a strong move. And you'll have optionality, right?
That's right.
Anyone else want to add anything to that?
I mean, look, I know we're a lighthouse customer of Oracle. We went live on their latest CPQ just a few months ago. It's been great. We're about to go live on Fusion, of course, Oracle ERP, hopefully, and I'm pretty confident that'll go well. But I haven't been at the conference because we have our user conference across the street right at the same time. So, but I agree with you. I think that's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I always feel like I'm advertised, but it's my belief in what Oracle is doing is genuine because it is a change, right? It's a very different strategy than we've ever seen from Oracle in the past. So I want to, unless you have anyone have any more comments they want to share?
The only thing I'd say is, you know, we're teeing up these huge investments right now. And that's why there's so much conversation about where do you get ROI. We recently analyzed the S&P 500. We kind of stripped out all the AI foundation builders, the tech companies that are making these extraordinary investments because they kind of skew the numbers. So we kind of isolated the legacy businesses in the S&P 500. And you can start to see benchmarks emerge around what companies are investing in AI. Legacy businesses trying to become AI powered. And it was really fascinating because and these are imperfect, but about 0.5% spend on AI as a percentage of revenue was kind of the emerging benchmark. And then if you double click again, the other really interesting thing was those who were investing more than that, we're seeing a 2 to 3x valuation premium over those who are investing less than that 0.5%. And so, this whole notion of ROI is interesting, but you're seeing in the data, the productivity gains we talked about, the survey results that say we're seeing results and we're going to invest more, and then these valuation premiums. The valuation comes because it is juicing earnings, and then it's sending a message to the market. I've got a vision for the future. I'm investing in it, and I'm going to get that valuation. I'm going to make it work. So, as we take this journey and we're teeing up all these big investments, that's why the strategy, the C-suite strategy is so important. It's like, you got to have a plan for it. But those who are investing wisely are seeing the returns.
That's great. That's a great closing comment. I do want to say, as we think about the discussion we just had, what did we learn? Let me summarize, or at least let me try and summarize. The winners are moving from experimentation to scaled value creation. And they're figuring out how to do that. I think that's one thing we learned. We also learned that you really need a digital clean core. And what I mean by that is a strong data model, governed data, clean data, garbage in, garbage out, right? It's the same thing. I mean, it's been that way forever. There is no silver bullet. Standardized processes, good. Yeah, and I think the using the embedded and thinking about it, to Matt's point, end to end, right? With these tools, what's there? Use it. How do you tie it together in a way to drive real value unlock? I think therein lies a major opportunity. Robust governance and controls, right? You really need to make sure. I mean, I worry about. We should have agent controls, right? To manage our agent environment. So we got to start thinking about that collectively. And of course, good governance and a robust people plan. Yes. Upscaling is at the hourglass. What does the org of the future look like? What are the skills that I'm going to need to be successful? And how do I retool my people to get there? So I think, did I miss anything that was an important point? A sharp group, so this was good.
It's a good summary.
Yeah, thank you. I've been taking my little notes. So what I'll say is, I am a zealot now. Right? I'm a true believer. I'm all in. Yeah. My boss is in the room. She's probably going to be looking for a lot more to come from me. We're just beginning our journeys, right? Don't be afraid to fail forward. Don't be afraid to disrupt yourself, because if you don't disrupt yourself, someone else will. So I wish you luck, good luck, and thank you for joining us, and thank you to my panel. This is really good discussion.
Great.